It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. And good morning to you. Glad that you're with us here today on what is a beautiful Monday. We've had a bunch of these days in a row. And it's really good to welcome into the studio this morning a couple of ladies that we're going to meet. And Linda, I don't know that I've ever had you on the air on Indiana in the Morning, have I?
I don't think so. I worked for WDAD and WQMU back in the 80s and the 90s, but I don't think I've been in this studio since it was built.
How many years have I known her, and she's never come on? It took you, Susan, to get her on.
That's it, yeah. It's all me.
Well, way to go. It's all about you. It's all about you. Dr. Susan Dahlheimer with us, Linda Gibson as well. AARP has a wonderful series. It is the 1 o'clock speakers series. Linda, is it always at the Indiana Mall Community Room?
Yes, we are lucky enough to be able to use the community room. It's every third Tuesday, most months out of the year. We just came back from a summer break. Yeah. We take July and August off, so September will be our restart of the 1 o'clock speaker series.
And you're doing it with Dr. Susan Dahlheimer for many, many years in the IUP Nutrition Department, Food and Nutrition Department, and you're going to be speaking tomorrow at, guess what time for the 1 o'clock series? 1 o'clock. Our conversation this morning presented by Marcus and Mack, voted best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 3 years in a row in a Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. So, Susan, health and wellness for seniors. And in particular, when we think about diet, and I just read this big item in our last half hour about energy drinks, and what are the worst and what are the best, and water is the best energy drink, they say.
For sure.
You have all this inside knowledge to pass along to folks.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's helpful to them. It's practical knowledge. It's how to live your life comfortably and still be healthy with nutrition. And of course, my emphasis is nutrition, to a lesser extent, physical activity.
Our bodies change so much as we get older, and of course, that's a lifelong study in itself, isn't it? But nutrition has so much to do with what happens within our bodies as we age, and that's a part of what you're going to be talking about tomorrow.
Absolutely, and the first message is, if you made it this far, you must be doing something right. So we don't want to change everything, and we're not the food police. My association is sometimes confused with people who make hard, fast rules. Really, there aren't any, but we want to move in a direction that supports longevity and supports good health for longevity. I hear people often say, well, I don't want to live to be 100. Well, if you could feel good and be healthy, then maybe you change your mind on that.
Sure. One of the things that we hear about most these days is inflammation, and how inflammation is directly affected by what we're putting into our bodies.
Right.
The foods that we eat, the drinks that we drink, and supplements that we might take. Is inflammation really as bad as they say that it is?
It is. It is responsible for diabetes in some people, or a major contributor, I should say. It contributes to cardiovascular disease. It seems to contribute to some cancers. And so, yes, eating foods that do not promote inflammation is a good idea. And we have some studies that suggest what those foods are, but they don't fit real well with what Americans like to eat in some cases, because it's vegetable-based, plant-based.
Inflammation is a reaction, isn't it?
Yes.
It's a reaction to what we're putting into our bodies. And you know, there are all kinds of theories about what it is that we should be following, this named diet or that named diet, or you know, here's your plan, what's your pyramid look like, and what's my pyramid look like. You're going to help us to figure that out tomorrow?
Well, we're going to look at a couple of different approaches. There's actually a very interesting population of over 700,000 people worldwide that have lived to be over 100, or currently living at over 100. And so there have been some interesting studies looking at what they eat and how they behave. And we're going to look at that. And we're going to look at some other things like Mediterranean diet and the low-carb diets, which come and go in popularity. So we'll be taking a look at that. But I think, again, coming back to the original concept, if you're doing something that you're happy with, then let's look at small changes that might make it healthier. Rather than throw out what you're doing. Most people aren't very good at starting over, especially with those long-established habits that we have.
And here we're talking about general lifestyle choices,
Absolutely.
and how we're building our daily lives. But then there are variations, and you specifically talk about when you're traveling. How do I regulate what I'm eating when I'm traveling? When I decide I'm going out to a restaurant, and those things where you step out of your routine, and therefore you're maybe ingesting things that normally you wouldn't, and your body reacts to those, and there probably are different approaches that will help you to do that in a more healthy manner too.
Well, we've always, as long as I've been in the profession, talked about moderation. So there's nothing that's absolutely forbidden for most people, and nothing that you absolutely have to have. It's the total picture. So we can adjust that wherever we are, in restaurants, traveling, and so forth.
Yeah. Linda Gibson, let's talk a little bit with you as well about this topic, and then we have a few other things to discuss with you. We're going to get into it with you. But you know, as Susan brings this to us tomorrow, it really is, you know, it sounds like it's something that's going to help a lot of folks, particularly those who are on a limited income or a fixed income, to make the right choices of where they're spending those monies.
Right. As a local chapter, ARP number 2581 tries to follow the topics that ARP on a national basis. There's a lot of people out there who already get ARP's bulletin or ARP's newsletters, and they see that people trying to live their best lives forever, as long as they possibly can, it hits some very, very common themes, and that is food and nutrition, keeping one's health for as long as possible. Where am I going to live? How is my money going to be protected?
Yeah.
Will we continue to have Social Security? All the different things that we have on ARP's radar screen. As a local chapter, we try and mimic with our 1 o'clock speaker series and bring in local people to talk about how that relates to us right here in Indiana County.
Yeah, I think that's really important too, because then we realize, hey, these are our friends and neighbors, and they have the same information and possibly much better information because it is local, as the so-called national experts.
Right. The local chapter is going to be 48 years old, whereas national ARP is 68 years old. So this local chapter was actually established only 20 years after, on a national basis, ARP itself was established.
Yeah.
And we keep two very important things on our ARP table. One of them is the founder, and the other one is all of our past presidents, so that people can see from 1978 on, this is exactly who led the local chapter. People don't realize that it even exists sometimes. So we try and promote as much as we can the fact that we have the local speakers, and more importantly, what kind of topics we're going to dovetail in. We are nonpartisan, supposedly apolitical, which is very difficult to do because everybody knows that ARP has practically its own healthcare, sponsor, if you will. Those types of things, it's impossible to change legislation and be apolitical. But on a local level, we are bipartisan.
Yeah.
And we want to point out that everybody, whether you are an ARP member or not, the American Association of Retired Persons is really a misnomer anymore. As a matter of fact, there was a podcast in the middle of 2022 by some 20-something who had a great following, and within like 15 minutes of him explaining that, oh, wow, with ARP you get all these discounts and you can do that, this, that, and the other. 150,000 people joined ARP, and 30,000 of them were between the ages of 13 and 18. So the age means nothing.
Susan, how many of those followers do you have? 60, 70 million?
Absolutely. Millions.
So we recognize the fact that even though we put out a very nice printed newsletter on a regular basis, and we have in-person speakers, we need to go towards social media. We need to start doing e-blasts or something along those lines in order to gain more people who are willing to come to a meeting. And that's tough because it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the third Tuesday, but it's in a place that should theoretically be as convenient as possible for people of all abilities. And our topics are really cool. Health and nutrition. Oh my gosh. Who doesn't want to know how to stay healthy longer?
Yeah.
You know, maintain that health. That's crucial. The next one's going to be Ramps of Hope.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a great organization.
That's a great organization. Wow. And we're going to try and dovetail that in with what also is available for accessibility to your own home on a county level, because Ramps of Hope is, of course, an FBI, a faith-based initiative. After that, and that's the thing, print, as soon as it's printed, people think it's written in stone. You and I both know things can change.
Sure.
And so our November speaker is not actually what was printed in the newsletter. It's going to be more along the lines of solar.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, our program person, our vice president, has actually, we're hoping that it's going to be kind of a consortium to see what's available out there and do some comparisons with what is coming along with different energy sources, and an update, hopefully, of what's taking place.
Yeah.
This is Indiana County. We're in the center of all of this.
Yeah, we really are.
Yes, we are. And a lot of the things that are taking place in Indiana County are absolutely revolutionary. I went to an SDHP, which stands for Self-Determination Housing Project. It's an organization for Pennsylvania. It's Pennsylvania's. SDHP is national. But what is taking place over at Carriage House and Essex House with affordable senior housing, with the county asking the local chapter of AARP and Aging Services Incorporated to actually give input on what they want affordable senior housing to look like. I could not find a single solitary other Pennsylvania county in which the county is actually investing in housing for seniors.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing what's going to happen.
It's going to be market rate. It's not going to be HUD. It's not going to be HAYAC.
Yeah.
It's going to be whatever the market can bear after the county's able to get the best possible price in actually creating that 6.5 acres.
Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. What is that you have there?
So this right
There you
here.
go. Hold that here. It's
Is it coming up?
it's to your
Right here? Where is it?
right there.
Okay.
Right there in the iPad.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So is it showing up?
I have no idea because I can't see it.
Yeah. But it is all of our past presidents.
Oh,
and
okay.
This is an example of our newsletter. It shows you exactly what is taking place. It's called Here's What to Do. We basically cover all of the events that are taking place from one speaker to the next. So it would be 9/17 through 10/15. And the input from this is given to us by other members of the chapter.
Okay. How do people get onto the list for the newsletter?
If they would like to text to me, 724-422-5852. That would be the easiest because my email address is really long, and more people have a tendency to have cell phones nowadays
Yeah, they do.
and are able to text than they have, their email
Yeah.
tied into their cell phones.
And we're
Yeah.
just about out of time here, but we want to remind folks again, Dr. Susan Dahlheimer tomorrow. It's at the Indiana Mall Community Room, 1 to 2 p.m. It's the 1 o'clock speakers series, Health and Wellness and What It Means to You. And we're looking forward to that. Good to have you both in the studio with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County. It's WCCS 101.1 FM, AM 1160, and WCCSradio.com. Fox News is next at the top of the hour. Josh with a very brief look at news. And then it's the Brian Kilmeade Show. I knew it was something. It's Indiana in the Morning on WCCS.